thanks for dropping by. It's Sunday again. They don't half come round quick, don't they? And it's a special Sunday today that happens now and again. It's called Scruffy Sunday. And do I give a monkeys? I think not. If you've come here to see a pretty face, you're on the wrong channel. Seriously. Right, now today it's going to seem like I'm being rude when I'm not. There's method in the madness, so hang in there. I'm going to talk about the types of orchid channels we've got. Now, I'm not trying to categorise any particular person. This is a generalisation. I mean, once upon a time I was subscribed to 160 channels, and when I looked at my subscription page on a daily basis, there'd be 20 or 30 videos, and it suddenly dawned on me there ain't enough hours in the day, and some of those hours belong to sleep, feed and doing my stuff. So I cut it right back to those that I'm far more likely to watch, and that's where this has come from. Why? Why am I more likely to watch those than any others? Now let's get one thing out of the way right at the beginning. Some people's videos I watch because I consider them friends. Okay, YouTube friends, never met them, probably never will, but they're that way, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to watch their videos. I don't always comment. We don't get time to do everything, do we? So that's that type. But sort of starting over one side, you've got, there don't seem to be as many as there used to be, but there are those whose channel is about how I grow my orchids. Often the semi-hydro or the water culture, or they're doing something a little bit off what some would call the norm. And there is no such thing as the norm. If your orchids grow well and bloom, that'll do as a norm, even if it's totally ridiculous to other people. Don't get bogged down by what the norm is supposed to be. If it works for you, then it's good stuff. But there are those type that are about the how I grow. Often not bothering that much on the what, just the how, because it's the methodology that they're into and they like and want to, you know, explain to others and stuff like that. So there's those sorts. And then there are the here am I over here, and oh by the way, here's an orchid. Here am I, I'm over here, and here's an orchid. Yeah, it's more about the person. And they're in it all the time. Yeah, and then there are those that are never in it. You might catch a glimpse of a shoulder or an elbow or perhaps an ear, but you don't ever see the person. They never appear. Now, that used to be me for a long time. You never saw me in videos. I forget how that changed, but it did. And I'm not in that many except for this one, and this is a regular feature that is probably, I think I can safely say, my most popular video, and I'm still not sure why. But it is, and it works, and if I look down my video manager, the ones that have got the most views by a lot are this one and Everything in Bloom. So why would I change them? Why would I stop doing that? That would be just silly, wouldn't it? But yeah, there are those that are in their videos occasionally, and it's often for practical reasons, because what they want to show you, they need to be there to do it, if you see what I mean. So there's that type. And then there's the type that want to tell you all about their orchids. Yeah? And they'll want to tell you where this orchid comes from, and perhaps where they got it, how long they've had it, things like that. They want to explain things about the orchids. There are others that never do that. They do the, here is a pretty orchid, here is another orchid, I've got this one over here. But you very rarely hear about them or how they get looked after. And then there are those special ones, luckily not too many, who want to tell you how to look after your orchids. We don't get too many of those. I wonder why. But telling somebody how you look after your own orchids is good stuff, as long as you explain, you know, the variables and everything like that. That's what a lot of people want. What other sorts? People that include quite a lot of visits to places, to garden centres, or often where there's orchids, or where orchids grow in the wild even, or shows. The shows in some countries are starting to come back on. Certainly in the States I've noticed a few videos about shows. None in this country or the EU, and won't be for a while yet. I think our first show, my Orchid Society's first show, which is the end of September, will be one of the first ones in this country, preceded possibly by a couple of other Orchid Societies that may creep in sort of July, August time. But ours is pretty safe in September, I think, given that all the rules are supposed to be going to be lifted towards the end of June, we hope. The only big show I can think of that's going to be on this year is probably the Welsh. It's an orchid study group, and they held a festival that I went to. I can't even remember how long ago it was, because years have gone missing when nothing happened. But I went with Lynn and Chris to that one. If I go to that one this year, hopefully Hannah can come, because she looked very interested in that. So there are those that include visits to orchid nurseries are special. So a lot of people haven't got one within range of what you can safely do in a day, if you see what I mean, without being too silly. I mean, there are some orchid nurseries that I could get to up north, but it would mean a stopover. It would be dangerous to do that amount of driving there, spend a day on your feet, and then turn around and come home again. So we don't do that sort of thing. There's a limit to what is safe driving, even as a driver, even as somebody who's done a lot of driving. So yeah, it's quite a few different types of channels, and within the channel types are different types of people. Like I said, it's somebody who wants to be in the video all the time, possibly even to the detriment of the orchids, and there are those, like I say, that are in them now and again when it's practical to be so, but don't make a big deal out of it, and those that are never in them because they don't want to show their face. And we've got one very famous person who we know really well from there downwards, and there's a reason for that. You don't need to know. Yeah, so, and then that swings it round to what I was trying to get at is, I can look at my stats, and this is views, not subscribers. I don't harp on about subscribers. Now that I've got to my 10k, that milestone people helped me with, I begged and pleaded and people responded. I've done that now. I don't need to do it in every flipping video. If you want to subscribe, I'm sure you will. You don't need a reminder all the time. That's the same with the old thumbs up. If you want to, I'm sure you will. You don't need pressuring into it. So I don't do all that sort of thing, although I did back then. I may do it again if I ever get to 100,000. I'll be badgering you. Don't hold your breath, and a lot of us won't even be here, and probably including me. But yeah, I look at my stats and I can think, right, that type of video is popular. Oh, that one was really popular, but I did another one almost the same and it wasn't. And for me to try and understand what people want from me is difficult. You might want it and still not get it, but it's nice for me to know the sort of things that people like. The problem I will get is, again, it's looking at stats. If I've got 11,000 something subscribers, yeah, and I get 1,000 views, it's around 1/10 of my audience is watching my videos. Yeah? You get somebody with 100,000 subscribers, and they get 5,000 or 6,000 views, percentage wise they're getting a lot less than I am. So I'm happy with the views I get as a percentage of, subscribers is potentially a number of people that could view. Unfortunately, that's not true, because there are many people who view and don't ever subscribe. Yeah, and they're not on the list, but they are counted as a view. That's why I like looking at the views in my stats. That's practically all I do look at. So it would be nice to know what videos are popular from me and why, but like I said, if you've got 11,000 subscribers, potential viewers, and 1,000 odd viewers, and then you look at this particular video and there's 30 comments, if I ask what videos you like, I'm only going to get comments from an itty bitty amount of the people that actually view. So I'm not getting a true representation necessarily. It could be spot on, and the people who do comment frequently are representative. And you know, but I'll never know, you know. So it's a difficult world, and the Orchid YouTube world has become more and more difficult as time's gone on. When I first started watching, before I even thought about picking a camera up, there weren't that many channels, and some of those channels didn't post that often. Yeah, so the choices were quite limited in those days, and then gradually more and more people came along, and you started getting favourites, you know. I mean, I can remember channels where I've seen a really brilliant video and subscribed, and the next few weren't as interesting to me, and so they faded away, they dropped off. And this is the social media world. You'll have a favourite golden boy one week, next week you're down in the dregs. That's life, that's how it goes. But I would like to know what is popular. I mean, I get asked sometimes, quite a few people, several comments have asked for something specific. I do it, and hardly anybody watches it. Now, I don't mind that. I don't make the videos to gain statistics. That's not why I do it. But it's nice to think that they're watchable and therefore have been watched, if you see what I mean. So, yeah. I'm not having a dig at any one person. If you've got some sort of complex that thinks I'm having a go at you, well, firstly, you're wrong. I don't do that sort of thing. Right, now, there was some stuff. Yeah, that's... Right. Lindley is just opening. Just literally... Yesterday morning I noticed a couple of blooms open, and a few more have opened overnight. Something you won't see very often, providing I don't drop it, of course. So I need to get a good grip on this because it's heavier. Is the big brother and the little sister, or whatever you want to call them, next to each other in bloom at the same time. You don't see that very often. Now look at the difference in the colour. The Lindley is incredibly pale, and you'll notice that the centre in the Lindley is more green than yellow. It's a gorgeous colour. Now, the Jenkinsii doesn't do that. The Jenkinsii opens paler, but it's all yellow. So I have to put that down because holding both of them, that one's a bit heavy actually. It's long been watered. But yeah, so this is opening up now. The Lindley, if you had to choose between the two, or if I was asked to advise, I would recommend this one because it's showier. You sort of get more for your bucks. The spikes have got a lot more blooms on. The spikes separate away from the plant. The blooms aren't buried in amongst the leaves, so it displays itself quite well. Leaves are larger. Everything about it is larger and more of. But I mean, I've had Jenkinsii a lot longer than this. This is a relatively new plant. This is only its second year blooming, and yeah, it's done okay. It should burst into life as far as growth and roots are concerned soon. But yeah, that's sort of opened up, and also over here, not fully open yet, but a taster. My Comic King is starting to open. Nobly type, obviously. Kiki from Rachel, long time ago. Virtually lost, almost got thrown away, and then, like is often the case with the dendrobiums, a tiny little bit of green appears at the base, and you think, oh, good job I didn't throw that away. Anyway, this is just opening up now. I remember the throat in the lip being a deeper yellow than that, but it could be a colour changer. But the purple on it is it's a flipping good match for that. Close, a bit darker. Anyway, that's there's some more buds up here to come later on, so that'll be in bloom a while now. That's that one. That's recent. Something else. Oh, flipping fragrance on that whatever it is nowadays, Prostacia. Well, the end bit's radiata, but I think one of its renamed attempts has actually got radiatum rather than radiator on the end of it. But one day they'll stop messing about with the names. Dream on, that ain't ever going to stop. Right, we got this. Oh, you'll be very pleased to hear that, where is it? Up here. This strangely named plant that we looked at last Sunday, I believe, on the grounds that a slug had got at a couple of the roots, some tips on the roots had gone, and I proudly displayed the little flower spike. Can you see a little flower spike? Now the slugs had that as well, which is why there's little blue bits in many, many pots and all over the floor. And why I have to keep my eye on, when that door's open, I make sure the cats don't come in. Elvis doesn't come in here, he just doesn't. Mojo sneaks in now and again and just has a nose round, but I'm making sure they stay out. I can't see that they'd touch the slug pellets. Why would they? Why would they? When it says on the packet that they're pet friendly, whatever that means, I presume it means they're unattractive to pets. Oh, and the other thing is the new dendrobium. Now, I think this will get a deeper colour as it ages, because it's only just opened, and it's not opened fully yet. And this is the Coriniferum, I think it's called. Coriniferum, yes. So, not a large dendrobium bloom, by a long way, but not fully open either. And an orangey colour in the centre. I'm not going to call it orange because it's orangey. It's almost peach. But I got a feeling, and the tips of the sepals are a gorgeous, just a tint. And it's waxy. It's a really waxy looking bloom. So I'm pleased with this. I wasn't sure what to expect. I'm also pleased with that down there. Got a nice new cane coming. So that'll be good. But yeah, that's the first bloom to open. There's a couple up there, up the top there, and then there's another one on each of the older two growths. So that's what it looks like nearly, but it will open a bit flatter than that, I believe. So that, you know, it will open out more. And I've got a feeling that the colour in the lip is going to deepen. Now apparently this smells of tangerines. Just about. Certainly not. If I've got to get my nose right in there, it's not a strong fragrance. But there, it's only just opened. And a lot of orchids take a while before their fragrance actually becomes apparent. So, you know, within the first few days, sometimes even as long as a week, there is no fragrance, and then it starts. Sort of appears. What else? I think there was a lot else actually. Oh yeah, everybody will have forgotten about this, as I often do, and it forgets to be watered. What's that, I hear you ask? You may well ask. It has got a label on it, because I'd never remember. And that is what it is. It's Aurantiaroseum. If the camera can give that a place where you can read it. Sorry, I'm having trouble with the light because the light's coming in from the side. Anyway, that's what it is, and it's only ever found growing in moss. That's why it's been set up like that. So it's a little, little drip tray with a couple of holes in the bottom so that it doesn't sit water, and it's sat in some live moss, and literally over the last 3 or 4 weeks it's put up 2 new growths. So it's starting to grow. I never expected anything from this. I expected it to die, and I'd never heard of it, and I doubt if anybody else has either. And I don't know what to expect from this. I assume it's a true miniature, but anyway, it's been buried at the back, and I thought, well, it keeps getting forgotten and I forget to water it and all the moss dries out, so let's bring it somewhere where I can't ignore it. So it's now here. Keeping it out of the sun at the moment, well, dappled sun, and there's no direct sun in here, only dappled sun. The buds on the Hercoglossom are now starting to swell, and the spikes on the Friedrichsianum Hanna are starting to move now. So, but they're quite a way down the line. I doubt if we'll get a Hercoglossom bloom open for another week, maybe 2 weeks, but they're coming. They'll be there soon. And by then, I suspect these will have dropped off. They don't last that long, unfortunately. And there's a couple still to open, so the actual plant will have blooms on for a while, but around this section they'll start to fall, because this didn't open down here first, it opened in the middle, and then moved downwards and then moved upwards. So these will be the first to go. Yeah, I mean, everything's just, a lot of things are just in growth mode at the moment, so which is good. It's better than doing nothing. Stuff growing, so that's good stuff. Orchids to go. As I said, thanks for Sean and Lita actually being in the right place at the right time and actually taking the plants off of me and paying your pennies. I hope you're okay with your plants. The rest of you, we're still getting frosts, but the weather forecast out into this coming week sounds like it's going to start getting a bit milder. It's the nights I'm worried about, not the daytime. If it's only 10 degrees during the day, that's good enough. Given that, in the UK, I'll be taking it into a building, it'll get collected and put in a van. Well, the bloke's not going to sit and freeze in the van, is he? So, and then it'll go to some sort of warehouse where people work. So I doubt if that's that cold. So once I can get it to Postman Pat, it's relatively safe. It's just that overnight storage that could be an issue if the night temperatures are still dropping below 0. So I'm just waiting for those nighttime temperatures to bump up a bit so that we lose the frost and everything. And then I'll get those on their way. I won't be doing them all at once. There are several pretty large boxes to do. Large in as much as size of plant or number of plants, but so I won't be doing them all at once, and there won't be any priorities or selections or anything like that. There's one person that won't get theirs for a while because they're on holiday. Thanks for letting me know, or it would have been sat on the doorstep. That's good. So I will be getting onto those in the not too distant future. Already I see a difference because several mounts have gone. So when I do my mounts now, they get done in 3 stages. They get done in that lot, then this lot, and then that lot. Well, that's one lot, and because a lot of those are smaller ones, there's plenty of room to let those hang and drip on the floor. Then I put those back, and I do that rack and that rack, which is not that many. And then I do the lot down the middle as a separate one, because these are all pretty big ones. So 3 sessions basically, and they're going quicker. So because some of the mounts are now gone, and also makes a difference when some are actually here, so that I can see them. And the job today, I'm not watering anything today. I'm going to rinse my big sprayer out, give that a good clean, and I'm going to go around the mounts with the sprayer for the first time this year, today, because I know we're going to have a hot day again, and probably again tomorrow, before we see any cloud. And yeah, I'm going to start using the sprayer every other day. So one day the plants will get properly watered, good soak, or a feed, and the day in between they'll get a soak with the sprayer, which is never quite as good, but it stops them drying out. you know, stop them running short. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah. I mean, this shelf here with the Miltoniopsis on, you know, there's 3 of the larger pots there that are going to go. So that shelf will suddenly be uncluttered. So, you know, it's going to make a difference as things gradually move. But, should be good, get a bit more space. I know I brought a lot of plants in. I didn't bring that many back from Burnham's, but Derek's plants have pushed my number of orchids up dramatically, but they take up no space. I mean, I've got 10 plants on a shelf there. I could get 12 on there, so they're not squashed up. And then I've got those down here. Now that kitchen session, the rest of Derek's plants, isn't the rest of them, because there's still these 2 down here that are in bloom, and there's the 2 Coelogenes as well. Coelogenes something or other. Oh, it's a long name, but it's a Memoria Wilhelm Michelitz or something or other like that. Well, one of those is in the Orchids to go, so that's going to Milan, I think that is. Well, you can repot it, mate. I'm not doing it for you. You know what you're doing. So there's one of those to go. That'll leave one for me to do. And I'm starting to look at the... see, when I was at Burnham's, I desperately wanted to come home with some medium bark. Now, I could have come home with a 60-litre sack, unopened, but Burnham's take the 60 litres out and rebag it in clear polythene in smaller amounts for people to take away. And they were all wringing wet. And I wanted one, and I thought, it's wet. How did it get wet? How long has it been wet? Was it wet in the sack before it came out? So it worried me to the extent that I left it there. So I still haven't got any what I call medium bark. I've got the big chunky solid stuff, and then I've got the Burnham's bark that you've seen me use in repotting frequently, that's not, you know, not large by any means. It looks like good stuff. So I'm still after some medium bark. I think what I might do next time I go to Burnham's, which will be once their cafe's open, so that I can have breakfast when I get there, rather than having to stop on the way. Although that place that Lynn and I stopped was so good. You know, you sort of stop and think, shall I do that? And make a stop part way through and then go on and perhaps have lunch at Burnham's rather than breakfast. Perhaps, because when I went with Lynn, we didn't plan on getting there early. We planned on getting there around lunchtime, so we didn't leave that early. Whereas if I went on my own, I'd leave quite a bit earlier to miss the traffic at this end and get on and go. Stop for breakfast and then do lunch at Burnham's or a cream tea or something. But I think what I might do next time is, if I can't get it anywhere else, I think I will take a bag of their medium stuff, bring it home, get it straight out of the bag and dry it out in the sun and get it dried off completely, and then bag it up again as a dry thing. So I keep my media, I know it's going to sound bad, but I'm the one who lives here, nobody else does. I keep all my media out in the hall in front of the radiator so that it's constantly warm and dry. That way it's never going to go mouldy or anything like that. But the repotting is now, I have noticed that stuff that was potted up in the Orchiata bark a while ago, the bark is not lasting anymore. And it suddenly dawned on me that I've owned that bark probably 3 or 4 years. Okay, I haven't used it, but my attitude towards bark is, if it's kept dry, it should keep. But does it? Think about wood in general. What happens to any wood when it loses its access to live? It starts to deteriorate. You know, if a branch breaks off of a tree, it starts to rot. And so does the bark. So is this Orchiata bark I've been using more, you know, up until the new stuff that I got, any good? Or is it just breaking down? And what's getting my hackles up thinking about it is that it's dark. Now normally when bark stays dark, it's because it's holding water, and it starts to do that as it breaks down. Now some of my cattleyas are looking that way inclined. I come round to water them and I think, oh, is that still wet? Yes and no. But it's on the way. It's on its way out. So I don't really want to carry on using that Orchiata bark. I'll try and get rid of it somehow. Mainly because it's old. As I said, it could be 4 years old. I mean, the last lot I bought was one type, not the other two types. So the other two types would have been bought the year before that. And that was at a show, one of our shows. It would have been a spring show. I wouldn't be buying the bark in the autumn, would I? So that would have been a spring show. Well, no shows this spring, no shows last spring, shows the spring before, and then two types probably the spring before that. This stuff's old, you know. Like I said, any wood that's detached from its liveness, its live source, it's going to deteriorate. Hardwood doing it slowly, softwood doing it quicker. That's why this place is starting to fall down. You know, it's at its day. So, yeah, I want to try and get hold of some medium bark. And Burnham's will have to do, because I know it's relatively fresh from stock, because their turnover's quite fast, if you know what I mean. So, you know, they'll open a sack full and make up whatever it is, 3 bags or something or other. They'll probably go that weekend and they'll have to do it again. But I'd have to dry it out. We shall see. Right. That'll do for today. And yeah, I mean, regular viewers, I'm interested in what else you watch. If you're a regular viewer, then you obviously watch my stuff for whatever reason. What else do you watch? What other channels? I don't need channel names. I'm after the type of video that holds your attention, if you see what I mean. And some thoughts about that, because you know, maybe there's something I could be doing that I'm not that would also be popular. Yeah? So I'm missing an opportunity, if you see what I mean. And well, you're missing an opportunity to see it because I'm not doing it. If you see what I mean. It's a two-way thing, these videos. I make them and you watch them. That's how it works. It's a two-way thing. You know, so if nobody watched them, then perhaps I'd stop making them. But yeah, I like having a bit of variety on my channel. Nearly always about orchids. That doesn't change much. But you know, we repot some, we mount some. We have a chat about them while we're doing it. We have a look at things, new blooms and stuff like that. I have a look at different types of orchids now and again. I offer some advice on how I'm looking after mine now and again. I'm not big on care videos, but generalised sort of views I'm okay with. So have a think about it, and you know, if you've been watching me for a while, have you ever stepped back and thought why? Well, you know, let me know. And if there is something I could be doing that you think I'd do reasonably well and you'd be interested in, let me know. And I'm not on about a one-off. I'm on about you know, like this is a regular Sunday thing. The Everything in Bloom is once a month. Because of the way the orchids cycle round, there's no point in doing that more frequently, because you just end up with the same plants. You know, if I did it fortnightly, the only thing that would be different was anything that's opened in that fortnight, and that could be nothing. So you end up with the same plants, but a month apart works quite well. And the field trips don't happen often, so you know, everybody says, oh, they're great, I look forward to them, but if you look at the number of views, they're not actually as popular as you might think they are. So yeah, what else could I do that you think would work with me doing it? Not necessarily copying other people or other channels or anything like that. It's worth a thought, and there might not be anything. It could be that I carry on exactly as I am, and nothing changes, and I'm happy with that as well, because that's something I can do. We'll see. And Michael McCarthy made me laugh. When I put the, it's like that magazine that I did for the virtual show. Lots of people said, oh, it'd be great if we could see that. Well, I got it up there. You have a look and see how many people have watched it. Hardly any. Okay, it didn't take long to do. It's not like I spent hours and hours doing it. But yeah, you know, some things don't work as well as others. That's to be expected. There's nothing new. But Michael McCarthy laughed at the The one that came first in the, what category was it in? I think it was in any other orchid, I think it was, and it was the catasetum. He said, basically, how many mistakes can you make naming one orchid? First of all, it's not a catasetum, it's not Fred Clark, it's actually Fred Clarkiara, so it's a new genus for those, yeah. Missed out after dark and stuck black pearl on the end. So it came across as catasetum, Fred Clark, black pearl. So a chunk missing, incorrect genus. Thank you, Michael. It's like I said, I'm obliged to put the name in as given. It's up to the individuals who send them in to actually get the name right, quite honestly. But it was a good blooming, though. Can't take that away from it. And deservedly got that got more points than anything else in the competition. So if we'd been doing a best in show based on points, that would have been it. That would have been the one. Now at Wessex, when it's a real show, they do a best species in show and a best hybrid in show. And then they do a best in show. How daft is that? Because it has to be one of the two that have already got the award. It can't be anything else, can it? If that's the best hybrid and that's the best species, there aren't anything else. It's either a hybrid or a species, and these are the two in those categories that are best in their category. So one of them has to be best in show. So somebody gets 2 awards. Now, I just find that daft, personally. But then I don't make the rules. Mind you, I am on the committee. I will make snidey remarks when given half a chance. We ought to have I think possibly better than that would be something like President's Award, President's Best in Show, which is not necessarily either of those two. And in other words, it's the plant that took the President's eye. Possibly chosen before the awards are given. Then is not influenced by best species and best best hybrid. So he would have to choose his best in show before the awards are given. Now if it turns out to be one of those two, that's fair enough, but it wasn't influenced by the awards previously given. That might be nice. We'll push for that next time round. I like the idea of that. President's Award. Knowing my luck, there'll already be one. Anyway, I've got stuff to do now. Not out here, I've got next to nothing to do out here. But I do have stuff to do. I haven't got to make bread today because it ran out a day early. The bread was yesterday. So no alarms. You don't have to run off and check all your alarms. I do find that amusing because it catches me out as well. You know, it's not just me. But when it's on a video that's not even necessarily on the day that the bread machine actually decided to make its beeps, and people go running off to check the front door or check their phone or whatever, I find that quite amusing. Anyway, have a think about video types. You know, is there? I mean, we do the project orchids. They're quite popular, but they're only once every 3 months. There's a big gap in between. But again, you know, when you're looking at the progress of a plant through the year, it's no good doing that every couple of weeks because you won't see the changes. So by leaving a 3-month gap, that seems to work okay. And those plants change each year, you know. So yeah, we've got some projects. We've got the feeding project for the 2 Miltonias, wherever they are, up there. Looks like they're hiding. I've moved them slightly. But that's only just getting going now. The attempt was to get the new growths to grow the roots and then feed one a lot higher than the other one. But the roots are now doing their thing. They're getting going proper. So I can now make sure they do get 2 different feeds when they get fed. Got that project on the go. There's a couple of others just lurking around in the background that I visit rarely, but they pop up now and again. And yeah, we'll see how we go. And thanks for dropping by, and let me know. Let me know what you like, let me know what you don't like necessarily, or things that you like more than others. I doubt if there's much that people don't like that actually are in those views, because Why would you watch something you don't like? There's a lot of other channels, you know, if you're struggling to stay with me on my channel, there's lots of others out there. I don't want to necessarily hold people against their will, but it's just, it'd be nice to know the sorts of things that people like possibly in other channels that might work for me, and get something a bit, not totally different, but just slants on different ideas and different things. Worth a think anyway. You may well all come up with absolutely nothing, and then I'll have to do it all, won't I? See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.